Hi Algebra! Welcome back. I'm here to talk to you about vertical lines and their slope. So I've drawn for us here an example of a vertical line. It's vertical because it goes straight up and down. And it makes a 90-degree right angle with the x-axis. We'll get more into angles as we continue in the course, but I just want to say that for those of you who know, that's a right angle right there, and that's part of what makes it a vertical line. So let's figure out what the equation of this vertical line should be and what its slope should be. So let's start off by trying to figure out how we could graph this line. So let's get ourselves some points and put those points into a table so that we can understand a little bit more about this line. So let's give ourselves a nice little table over here for x and y values for each one of these points. So let's see, we're going to do the x and y values. And so what I'm going to do is just go down and I'm going to start with this first point and I'm going to write the coordinates down for all those little points that I labeled. So in the x direction, I went over 2 to this line, and then in the y direction, I went positively up 1, 2, 3. So this is the point 2, 3. This one right here is the point 2, 2. This one right here is 2, 1. This one right here is our x-intercept, and it's the point 2, 0. Then we have 2, -1, 2, -2. I should have drawn my line longer. 2, -3. 2, -4. And I think you guys see the pattern, right? X never changes. It doesn't matter what's going on with y. X is always 2. And so the equation for this line, x equals 2. That's it. Because it doesn't really matter what y is, x is always going to stay the same. You can change y as much as you like, x never changes. And that's going to give us a clue for the slope too. So if we think about the slope as the change in y over the change in x, well, the change in y, I don't really know about, unless I did a specific example. But the change in x is never changing. X is always 2. So if there's no change, that means there is 0 change. And now we have a bright red problem. We cannot divide by 0. So then that means that for vertical lines, this quarantine's getting to me, y'all. For vertical lines, the slope is undefined. That's what you call it when you try to divide by 0, is you call it undefined. So I want to give you guys a few examples. So I want you to try to graph x equals 4/3. Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can graph that. And I'll give myself a cool little axis here for us to graph it on. Some of you mentioned that the sound is off in this. I apologize. If sometimes I'm screaming or sometimes it's difficult to hear. I'm still working on it. We'll get there. So these lines are actually pretty fun to graph. I threw you guys off, I think, a little bit by giving you 4/3 as an increment. But so what you want to do is go on the x-axis and find where 4/3 is. So if this is 1 right here, I know 4/3 is the same thing as 1 and 1/3. So I'm going to go over 1 and about 1/3, which I will use my handy dandy ruler and say, oh, that looks like about 1/3 right there. Ooh, let's make it 90, because it's a vertical line after all, so it's got to be 90 degrees. So we'll say that's about 1/3 right there. And that's it. That's all you do. That's the line x is equal to, it doesn't really look like 1/3 now. I'm going to redo it. Perfectionism strikes again. Let's make it lovely for you. That's how I show you guys that I miss you, is I regraphed that so that you would have a nice line. And so this would be a graph of the line x is equal to 4/3. That's it. Sometimes your textbook will try to get tricky. Let me give you an example too. And they'll just try to remind you what vertical means, and they'll say graph a vertical line passing through the point two, 4, let's say. No need to sweat. They're just trying to make sure that you know what the word vertical means, I think, when they give you this kind of problem. So let me give me an x and a y right here. La-di-da. And I'm going to find the point 2, 4. So in the x direction, here's my 2. And in the y direction, here's positive 4. So 2, 4 is this point here. And I know that a vertical line goes straight up and down, so it's going to go through all these points here. And that's it. That's all you got to do to graph a line. Vertical line going through the point 2, 4. And that's all they want from you. Because now here's our point 2, 4. And this beautiful vertical line goes right through it. And that's it. So in general, the equation of a vertical line is x equals c, where c is any real number and vertical lines have an undefined slope. And that's all you really need to know about that. All right, in the next video, I will talk to you about horizontal lines, and it's going to be pretty similar. I think you'll like it.